Hey guys, Micah from blackbearcustomkydex. We are going to look at this exciting sheath system today. I had a lot of fun building this, and if you guys have followed me for a while, you may notice that it looks auspiciously similar to a previous build. That is because the customer asked me to more or less replicate the previous project with the same components and everything. So what we're looking at here is just an insanely complicated build. I altered the design ever so slightly from the original, not only for my benefit, but for the customers. And I'll get into all those details. First, a little bit of housekeeping. It's been a long time now, I think like 6 months or more since I've regularly been posting videos, and I apologize. I really appreciate those of you who've been followers on the channel for a long time. You know that I used to post all the time, and I really appreciate you guys sticking it out and continuing to see the channel grow and get views and all that. It's really humbling to me that anybody's interested to see any of my stuff to begin with, but to have stuck it out despite the fact that I wasn't producing any more content for a while just means a lot to me, guys. I don't make any money off of YouTube apart from the obvious exposure and attraction of maybe some new customers because they see a video and then they contact me about a sheath project, and then I make some money off that. But I don't have any kind of monetization or sponsorship through YouTube or any other company. So the views are not, the view count doesn't really matter to me apart from just being excited that many people got to check it out or wanted to check it out and hear me ramble on about this stuff. I'm very passionate about this subject. And for those of you who are knife nuts or sheath crazy or whatever, hopefully you enjoy this stuff too. For those of you who are sheath makers, I hope you get a lot out of my videos. And along those lines, I am developing a course where I'm going to be offering essentially free tutorials. I'll be posting videos, free channel. It'll be a separate channel but tied to this one, and you'll be able to follow how to make Kydex sheaths the way I make them to a certain extent. There is going to be a point at which I don't divulge all of my secrets, and to get those secrets, you have to go behind a paywall. It's not going to be much. It's just going to be a little bit of a modest thing to kind of incentivize me to keep those kind of videos going, and to maybe help new guys not have to spend a ton of money to really learn some of the most beneficial things that you can learn about the real nitty-gritty finer details of creating a product that people want to buy. So anyway, I won't talk too much about that until it's closer to the time, but I want to give a little bit of a preview of it and foreshadow every video that I shoot so that you guys know what's coming. All right, I'll go ahead and shut up about that stuff and talk more about this build. So actually, one other thing. For those of you who have subscribed to the channel since I stopped making content, thank you for becoming a viewer. I hope you've enjoyed a lot of my older videos, and I hope you'll enjoy all the stuff that's coming up because we got some zingers on the docket. All right, guys. What we're looking at here is a piggyback system with a lot of accessories. The knives are the Tops Steel Eagle 107C, the Benchmade Hidden Canyon Hunter. We have a Lansky LCD02 tactical sharpening rod. We've got an Exotac fire rod as I reach for the wrong area on the sheath. An SE AH1 arrowhead. An Olight i3E EOS flashlight. A small Altoid tin. And an Isobright compass from Armorlight. We also have a pair of Molly locks on here as the carry setup, and obviously a whole lot going on. It's like a jungle of Kydex here. We've got so much overlap and positioning and shared hardware. It is an absolute puzzle to put this thing together. Like I said, slightly better than the original as far as assemblage goes, and I'm going to explain that right now. So what is different about this from the original? Well, for one, this one is about a ½ inch longer than the original. Why? Because I noticed with the original that the handles of the two knives slightly overlapped. It was very, very minor. It didn't inhibit anything, but having a totally unshared space, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Having zero overlap means that you can more comfortably grip the smaller knife in particular to get it out of there. Your fingers are not competing for space with the Kydex that encloses the handle of the larger knife. And that is really beneficial. So that's the number one benefit. The number two benefit is that it allows me to not have quite as much overlap of hardware, meaning I can get things a little bit tighter, a little bit snugger on this one than I could on the original. And then finally, this assemblage back here of the Altoid tin and the compass is slightly different looking. The reason why is because I decided with the Molly locks, it'd be better to have as little overlap with the compass as possible. And if you notice, the compass holder is actually tilted this way. By putting one side up on top of the Altoid tin and having the other side on a washer that I can compress, I was able to create a little bit of a tilt, which just gives that clearance. You can see behind the Molly locks, in between that and the compass holder. And that clearance just means that it's a little easier to use this thing. You also have the Molly's riding at a height that is a little more appropriate. So if you imagine between these two pieces here, in that crease is where the Molly webbing would go. And that crease is pretty much level with the top of your Altoid tin. Whereas with the previous system, the Altoid tin was actually sitting on top of the compass holder, which meant that it was riding another almost 1/4 inch up, well, maybe closer to like 3/16 up. So it wasn't necessarily problematic, but it definitely makes it a little harder to position everything and get you to, thread through and close up the mollies after you've woven them onto your webbing. So this is just all around slightly easier to use and put together, and that's why I changed the design how and where I did. Another thing I did differently between this and the original is I added some manufacturing to the process. So what I mean by that is, since doing the original, I have learned how to design things in CAD. I've learned how to run CAM tool paths and how to run a CNC. I own a CNC and I'm able to cut aluminum with that CNC. So what I've done is I've designed myself a couple of vacuum molds for two of the accessories on here. Obviously the arrowhead here and the compass here. These were really quick molds to cut, and what they do is they just give you a precise form-fitted sheath that you don't have to worry about pressing and making any mistakes by hand. Where the arrowhead is so small, it's extremely difficult to press this by hand and get the right retention in the locations that you need it. With the compass, it is a small footprint combined with being kind of tall for what it is. So you have to kind of press things around it by hand. You can't get the rubber too hot. You certainly don't want to get the plastic around the liquid in the compass hot. You'll actually boil off some liquid that way, or cause a little bit of warp on the plastic and the liquid leaks out, and then your compass is useless. Ask me how I know, guys. In my first few months of doing Kydex, somebody asked for a compass holder. I had no idea what I was doing, so I tried to press hot Kydex around that. I didn't realize it would warp the plastic enough to spring a leak, but that's exactly what happened. And I had to replace this guy's compass. It was an expensive one at that. So lesson learned, valuable lesson learned. So what I did was, for the original, I had made, I think, a wooden one of these, or maybe even clay, I can't recall, but I'd done basically a mold for it that I was able to press by hand. And this one I vacuum formed aluminum, so it's a lot more precise and crisp and all that. And with those crisper sheaths means that you can really get your location. It fits in there so snug, but you still have a nice smooth draw. So coming up with that is really important. As far as the Exotac goes, you're going to notice that it's pretty snug in its holder at first. But the reason why is because as you use this, you're going to be whittling material off of the rod. So relative to the holder, it shrinks and it's going to become loose. So you're going to need this elastic bungee to maintain retention on it. And if you notice, the holder for the Exotac has a notch. It's got one on both sides, and that notch just allows you to fit the shock cord into it, so that even at the point where you've whittled the end of your rod down and it doesn't protrude from the holder anymore, you'll still have compression this way to prevent it from falling out of the holder. It's very, very important. The Lansky can go in either direction. It doesn't matter. You can have the ceramic blades up here by the mouth of the sheath, or flip it around and have it down here. It doesn't really matter. It's snug enough that it's not going to fall out on you. So I don't think there's any reason to fret too much about which direction it is. I think it just boils down to how do you want to draw it out of there. The Altoid tin slides in nice and smooth. To get it out of there, all you do is kind of just get your finger behind the molly locks a little bit. You could do it this way too. That might actually be easier. But you just push it out until you can get a good grip on it, and you're good to go. Altoid tins are great to have on a sheath, guys. If you're looking for a little kit to put together, fishing gear, mylar blanket, bait, maybe some tinder, whatever, you can store that in a tin. They do also make tins that are a little more watertight. These are not watertight, but in rain, you're probably fine. If you submerge, the inside of this is going to definitely flood a little bit. Maybe not quickly, but it'll definitely take on water. Compass holder here. We'll circle back to the compass in just a second. And the flashlight holder over here. Again, the flashlight can go in either direction. I personally prefer it facing upward. That's just my preference, but yeah, you can definitely have it in either way. It doesn't matter at all. With the flashlight, with these twist cap style lights, when you turn it off, if you don't unscrew it far enough, you can compress it and still turn it on, because all the twisting does is it moves the terminal and the battery closer together until both ends of the battery are being touched by a terminal, and compressing it this way does the same thing. So I recommend unscrewing it to a point where compressing it will not turn your light on. Reason being, you could accidentally have it compressed and on, and you're just draining your battery. So unscrewing enough to prevent that is a good idea, because it's really easy to just screw it back in and turn it on when you need it. So that's my 2 cents, but obviously if you want to spend money on batteries, you go right for it. All right, and then let's see the fit on the knives here. This one doesn't click in too much, but you can kind of feel it pop to its final location. Really good retention, nice, smooth, easy draw. With the Steel Eagle, you'll definitely get a click. Again, really nice retention, nice, smooth draw. Now you're going to notice that the hand position is a little bit awkward. The reason is because the Steel Eagle is a nightmare for prep, and one of the things that makes it really difficult to sheathe is that this choil is normally the retention point on most knives, but with both of these knives you have negative handle contour or simply not enough contour to really get retention. So on this Steel Eagle handle, I default to the second choil, and on the Hidden Canyon Hunter, I default to the steel of the choil there. And those 2 points give us all the retention. Because this sheath comes so far onto the handle, you can't really get the same like index on the knife that you normally would. So it requires you to kind of move your hand back a little further to access that thumb ramp. But if you want to, one trick you can do is you can put this Lansky with the ceramic blades closer to the opening, and you can use those as your thumb push, because this head of the Lansky cannot pass through the holder. So that's one option right there. Or you can just kind of get used to that weirder, maybe use the knuckle of the thumb instead of the tip. It's not so bad once you get used to it, but it definitely doesn't feel quite natural. Everything else, just seeing how it works. Yeah, so that's pretty much it on this thing, guys. One other detail I want to address, you may have already noticed, but the color of the plate that holds your molly locks is slightly different from the color of all the other accents, accessories, reinforcement plates, etc. The reason is they're both the same product listing, foliage green. In my original video, by the way, I said moss gray. This is foliage green, not moss gray. I just don't even know how I made that snafu there. I think I just didn't realize. But anyway, this is foliage green. This is a piece from the original sheath project. This is a cutoff from the sheets that I used to make the original sheath. So even though I do have enough material to have just used this stuff and have it all perfect color match, I really wanted to include this because this sheath was inspired by the original anyway. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to have a piece of it on there. Now the piece that's on there is pretty much never going to be seen, which is why I'm okay with having that mismatch of colors. It's always going to be tucked behind up against a backpack or a pack or a vest or whatever. So I'm okay with that. You only see it when it's oriented like this. And at that point, you know it's there because it's a nod to the original system using an actual piece from that project. I thought that was kind of fun. Why is it a different color? I have no idea, guys. Sometimes they do this to me. They change a little bit of the dye process or something, and things come out iteratively different from how they were before. I don't know if it's a permanent change or if it's just, you know, maybe this batch that I bought maybe are slightly different color. I have no idea. The other reason why I put that on there is because I do think that the original version of foliage green matches the handle really nicely, whereas this foliage green is like a little, I don't think it's a mismatch by any stretch. It still looks nice, but it's not quite, you know, you can see that little bit of yellow in it that just kind of ties in really nicely. So anyway, those are the big differences. And as far as assembling this goes, guys, it's just a nightmare. You have to kind of put one screw in the hidden canyon sheath to be able to pivot it out of the way while you set something else, and put one screw in through that'll hold the compass holder and one screw on the molly plate. And it's just a nightmare. You can't just put things on. You have to put them on in a particular order, one screw at a time, and everything has to be able to shift and move so you can access other screws and tighten this and that. And you got to use extra long screws to do this, but then you have to remove them once you've compressed it. And yeah, it's a process, guys. It is a freaking process. But I'm really proud of how this came out. I think it looks nice. It definitely functions well. And I think it is close enough to the original, but with some slight upgrades to the design that everybody kind of wins with this thing. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I really appreciate you guys. If you've stuck it out for the whole video, wow, you are a trooper. It's really rare that anybody wants to watch more than like 2 to 3 minutes of content. So I should try to do faster videos, but I know there are those of you who really appreciate the in-depth look at things and talking about all the nitty-gritty. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, I'd love to hear those down in the comment section. And of course, if you're a fan of the channel, if you like this video, if you like this kind of content, hit that like button. If you like my work, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell to receive notifications anytime I upload new videos, which I will be doing soon, I promise. And of course, I'd love the comments, the shares, anything like that would be much appreciated. All right, guys, that's all I've got. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Stick around for the next video. God bless.